Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life, trying to make a decision. Should you take that new job offer, invest in the stock market, or maybe even move to a new city? We've all been there, feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders as we try to make the best decision. But what if I told you that the way you're making those decisions might actually be the problem? What if the answer isn't about just following your gut or doing endless research, but rather understanding how to navigate the uncertain world of decision-making? In her groundbreaking book, How to Decide, Annie Duke pulls back the curtain on the psychology of decision-making and introduces a framework to help us make better choices. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of decisions you need to make, don't worry, you're not alone. And more importantly, you don't have to face these decisions blindly. In this audiobook by AudiblePages, we're going to dive deep into the author's key lessons and break them down into easy-to-understand, actionable insights that will transform the way you approach your decisions, big and small. Main points. 1. Decision-making is not just about the outcome. Let's kick things off with the first big idea. Decision-making is about the process, not just the outcome. We're conditioned to focus on the results, right? If you make a decision and things go well, you think, I made a good decision. If things go wrong, we tend to say, I made a bad decision. But the author wants to flip that narrative on its head. The reality is, outcomes are often outside of our control. You could do everything right and still end up with an outcome that wasn't in your favor. Conversely, you could make a poor decision and get lucky. Think about poker for a second. A skilled player doesn't just look at the cards in their hand. They consider the odds, the bets, the actions of others, and much more. In the same way, life decisions are about how we navigate the unknown and the uncertainty. It's about how we approach the problem, gather information, and make our best guess given what we know. The author encourages us to shift our focus from what happened to how did I make this decision, and was that the right way to approach it? She calls this the process focus, where the aim is to improve the decision-making process itself. By focusing on the process, we can become more skilled in making decisions, regardless of what happens afterward. So, the next time you're feeling down because a decision didn't go as planned, remember this. You're not a failure just because the result wasn't what you expected. Focus on refining your process, and you'll improve over time. 2. The importance of considering uncertainty. One of the most insightful lessons from How to Decide is the concept of uncertainty. We live in a world where it's almost impossible to know every variable that affects an outcome, yet we often act as if we can predict everything. The author argues that embracing uncertainty is not only freeing, it's essential for making better decisions. Think about it. When we make decisions, we often assume we know more than we actually do. We think we can control the future, but in reality, we can only predict probabilities. The author introduces the concept of decision windows, the time frame within which we should make decisions. Rather than aiming for perfection, we should focus on making decisions that are good enough, given the uncertainty we're facing. For example, when making financial investments, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that we can predict the next big thing. But what if we accepted that uncertainty and looked at the best decision we could make with the information we have, rather than trying to foresee every twist and turn? The key is not to freeze up in fear of making a mistake, but to embrace the unknown, knowing that you can still make an informed, educated decision. The author uses the example of betting on sports, where we can't predict the future, but we can still make decisions based on probability and risk management. This insight helps us understand that uncertainty is a part of life, and the more we accept it, the better we'll be at navigating the decision-making landscape. 3. The role of mental models in decision-making. Have you ever heard of mental models? If not, get ready for an eye-opening idea that could change the way you approach problems. The author emphasizes the importance of mental models, frameworks, or thinking tools that we use to make sense of the world and make decisions. These models help us break down complex problems and come to conclusions that are more likely to be successful. A mental model could be something as simple as loss aversion, the idea that we fear losing something more than we enjoy gaining something of equal value. By understanding this mental model, we can recognize when it's affecting our decisions. Maybe we're hesitating to take a risk because we're too focused on the potential loss, even if the potential gain outweighs it. The author discusses how successful decision-makers don't rely on just one model, but use a variety of models to think about a problem from different angles. For instance, in business, you might combine models from psychology, economics, and game theory to figure out how to navigate competition. The more models you have at your disposal, the more tools you have to build your decision-making toolkit. Imagine you're trying to choose between two job offers. One has a higher salary but is farther from home, while the other offers a better work-life balance but at a lower salary. By using mental models like opportunity cost and marginal utility, you can better weigh the trade-offs. 4. Making better decisions through group dynamics. In our modern world, we often make decisions in groups. Whether it's at work, with friends, or in family settings, group decisions are a huge part of our lives. But what happens when a group of people, each with their own biases and opinions, comes together to make a decision? The author dives into how groups often fall prey to something called groupthink, where the desire for harmony leads to poor decision-making. It's when everyone in the group agrees, but it's not necessarily the right decision. So, how can we break out of this cycle? The key is to encourage constructive dissent. The author suggests that groups should actively seek out differing opinions and challenge one another's assumptions. This can lead to better decision-making because it forces everyone to think critically about their own views and be open to new perspectives. Think of it as a brainstorming session, but with a twist. Instead of just throwing out ideas, everyone should be encouraged to argue their point of view and poke holes in each other's arguments. It's uncomfortable, sure, but it can lead to decisions that are far stronger than those made in a group where everyone just agrees to avoid conflict. Conclusion. So, what does all this mean for your life? Well, when you're faced with a tough decision, remember that the process of deciding is just as important, if not more so, than the outcome. Embrace uncertainty, because it's impossible to know everything. Use mental models to help you frame your decisions and improve your thinking. And don't shy away from group dynamics. Actively seek out different viewpoints to make more informed, collective decisions. By following these principles, you'll not only make better decisions, you'll become a better decision maker. And trust me, that's a skill that will serve you for a lifetime.